Right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, as they say, welcome. So, over the last few days, of course, we've been discussing the Naira swap and the debacle, the disaster even that has turned into. So, we've been discussing it on the platform in our live sessions. And some of the conclusions that we did form was that. The February the 10th extended deadline will still have to be extended even further. Or that extension, that deadline will just have to be abandoned completely, and then let the old Naira notes run till the end of the year. So this is so that's one of the conversations we have been having. So now there's been new developments in that space. So let me share this article with you. Let me put this article on the screen so you don't just think I'm talking gibberish, which you may well still think I am. But let me share this article with you. Let me pop it on the screen. So there it is right there. Justin, Naira swap. Supreme Court cancels CBN February 10 deadline. So there it is right there. So with 2 days to the end, with 2 days to that deadline expiring, the Supreme Court now steps in to make a final decision. Not even Malam Buhari can sideswipe the decision of the Supreme Court, because in Nigeria, of course, they say after a Supreme Court pronouncement, the only judgment that is left is God's. So, Justin, Naira swap, Supreme Court cancels CBN's February the 10th deadline. So let's now find out exactly what the Supreme Court decided. The Supreme Court on Wednesday restrained the Central Bank of Nigeria CBN and the federal government from effecting the February the 10th, 2023 deadline to phase out the old Naira notes. In a ruling delivered by a seven-man panel of Supreme Court led by Justice John Okoro, granted an ex parte application that the old Naira notes will remain legal tender until a final decision has been made on the suit brought to the court by three northern governors, Kaduna, Kogi, and Zamfara. So that explains the headline, by the way, because of course that space would have been championed by El Rufai, who seems at the forefront of all narratives at the moment. Recall that the CBN had redesigned the 200, 500, and 1,000 naira banknotes and released the new currencies in December 2022. The financial regulator also informed Nigerians that the old notes will cease to be legal starting from January the 31st, 2023, but it later extended the deadline to February the 10th, 2023. Kaduna, Kogi, and Zamfara governments dragged the CBN and the federal government to the court over the impact of the transaction of the let's take that again. Kaduna, Kogi, and Zamfara governments dragged the CBN and federal government to court over the impact of the transition from the old Naira to the new Naira. Through their counsel, Abdul Hakim Uthman Mustafa SAN, they asked the Supreme Court to intervene as the deadline will increase hardship of persons living within their three states. So let's see what else it says. Uh, they applied for an interim injunction through an ex parte motion to temporarily halt the CBN and Nigerian commercial banks from enforcing the deadline to phase out the old Naira notes. Mustafa told the court that unless this honorable court intervenes, the government and the people of Kaduna, Kogi, and Zamfara states will continue to go through a lot of hardship and would ultimately suffer great loss as a result of insufficient and unreliable time within which the federal government is embarking on the ongoing currency redesign policy. The three states argued that their residents have deposited their monies to the banks as directed by the central government, but there is insufficient new Naira notes to meet the demands of their citizens. They said the 10-day extension of the deadline is not enough to cushion the chaos and hardship the Naira redesign policy has caused their residents, as they are still unable to access their money to finance their daily activities. The court granted their request to temporarily halt the CBN deadline. The case was adjourned to February the 15th, 2023. So there it is right there. The case has been adjourned to February the 15th, 2023. So essentially an additional 5-day extension. But really what we need is a decision really that completely clears off and ends this chaos. So what they need to do is a minimum of a 3-month extension, because that provides that insulation space. I'm not quite sure what the hurry is, to do this. Yes, you are trying to get at the politicians, but as we've established, the politicians have already gotten their vote buying money in situation in the old or new currency. They are ready. So now what's now happening is just vesting hardship on the people. There's nothing else outside of that, vesting hardship on the people that seems to be going on now. Let's take it from a different article, and then we'll leave it there. Let's see how it is captured somewhere else. So let me bring this up. Let me just yes, let me bring this up. So let's share this with you. Let's do that. Do this. Pop it on the screen, and then see what it says. So there it is. Breaking: Supreme Court blocks Buhari CBN from banning old Naira notes. So there it is. The headline often more expansive than the actual content itself. So it's more outlandish than what the content usually brings. The Supreme Court on Wednesday temporarily halted a move by the federal government to ban the use of old Naira notes from February the 10th, 2023. A 7-member panel led by Justice John Okoro halted the move of the federal government in a ruling in an ex parte application brought by 3 northern states, Kaduna, Kogi, and Zamfara. The 3 states had specifically applied for an order of interim injunction restraining the federal government through the Central Bank of Nigeria CBN or the commercial banks from suspending or determining or ending on February the 10th the time frame with which the now older version of 200, 500, and 1,000 denominations of Naira may no longer be legal tender, pending the hearing and determination of their motion on notice of interlocutory injunction. Moving the application on Wednesday, counsel to the applicants, Mr. A.I. Mustafa, SAN, had urged the Apex Court to grant the application in the interest of justice and well-being of Nigeria. He stated that the policy of the government had led to an excruciating situation that is almost leading to anarchy in the land, while he referred to a central bank CBN statistic which puts the number of people who don't have bank accounts at over 60%. Mustafa lamented that the few Nigerians with bank accounts can't even access their money from the banks as a result of the policy. The senior lawyer further argued that unless the Supreme Court intervenes in the situation, the senior lawyer further argued that unless the Supreme Court intervenes, the situation would lead to anarchy because most banks are already closing operations. Delivering ruling in the motion, Justice Okoro held that after a careful consideration of the motion ex parte, this application is granted as prayed. An order of interim injunction restraining the federal government through the Central Bank of Nigeria or the commercial banks from suspending or determining or ending on February the 10th, 2023, the time frame with which the now older version of the 200, 500, and 1,000 the nomination of the Naira may no longer be legal tender pending the hearing and determination of their motion on notice for interlocutory injunction. He accordingly adjourned the case to February the 15th for hearing of the main suit. So the only really thing to quibble about this, because this was a moment that the Supreme Court could have moved quite aggressively to rescue the nation if they had set the ruling for, let's say, 6 weeks to 2 months time. That would have bought the nation the time it needs anyway for this policy to work. So they should have opened that window to say, okay, we're stopping you from doing it until we make a ruling on it, and then we'll be making that ruling in 6 to 8 weeks time. Thereby then you will have a judgment. But by that 6 to 8 weeks time, whatever needs to happen would have happened, and the situation would have resolved itself within that time period. It would have saved the government's face and rescued the people. So that I suspect what the Supreme Court could have and probably should have done. But there you have it, another extension by a miserly 5 days, but an extension nevertheless. Come share thoughts about all this with me in the comment section. So I'll leave you here, carry conversation on with you in the comment section. But here I say peace.